Hello, joining me tonight. Can you just introduce yourself, what you do for a living, and a little bit more about yourself first
Okay,
of all?
so my name's Duncan McNutt. I'm a dentist, live and work up in Cumbria. Been a cyclist since I was a kid, on and off. Done triathlon, all sorts of other stuff. Swam competitively. Had a whole team. Had pneumonia. Had COVID twice. Lockdown. Had an accident. Fell off my bike. Broke 7 bones, 5 ribs, punctured lung, collarbone, elbow, all the rest. Put a lot of weight on. Getting back into it.
Yeah,
That's a quick
good.
synopsis in it. I think
That's brilliant. That's it. Yeah, straight to
covers
the point. What made you think about needing to take a change and improve your
right.
weight?
So
So
as I briefly mentioned there, I'd put a lot of weight on. I've been trying to drop my weight and get back to fitness and make a start without much success on and off for probably 18 months, 2 years. So once we got out of lockdown and probably got back into what year would that have been now? It's all a blur, isn't it, after lockdown? Of 22, I suppose, really, the start of 2022.
yeah,
Since about then, really, I've been trying on and off to do stuff and not really managed to get very far. My mind wasn't in the right place, which doesn't help, and not really gone anywhere. But started to really know that health wise, I needed to do something, and so that was it. And I wanted to try and find somebody to help me coach wise, who could help me both on the motivation side, the nutrition side, the fitness side, and everything,
yeah,
to basically give me a kick up the backside and get
yeah,
me moving.
yeah. That's good. And you worked with a coach before in the past?
So I've worked, I mean, obviously, coming from a swimming background,
Yeah,
you've always got a coach on the pool side. So I work with coaches locked like that. I've worked with coaches cycling, I've worked with coaches swimming. So I like having that parrot on your shoulder, whatever it is, somebody to talk to, somebody to guide, somebody to go. That's fine. Like you do. Like
what was it? What was it that made you think you needed to reach out to someone to start making that change?
because obviously, I mean, as you know now, I know what to do. Just I needed that second person guiding, pushing to give me the motivation to see it through, basically, and do what I knew I needed to do.
When did you first find out about my services, and when did we first sort of start chatting?
Probably I saw your posts on, was it Facebook or Instagram? It'd be one of the two, probably Facebook. And they came up in my feed for some reason. Don't ask me why,
Yeah,
but they did.
yeah,
Probably during May. And then I contacted you during May, I think, didn't I? And we had
yeah,
a few chats. And then
yeah,
it was the 1st of June that I made an official mental start in my head to start doing stuff. And so really everything's been since then, 1st of June 2023.
brilliant. And what was it that attracted you initially to reach out for me, particularly to help you? Obviously, there's other coaches around, but is there anything particular
I think
that
it's just
attracted you?
just the way that you've done the little videos and your little about diet and nutrition and people losing weight and motivation and things. I think it was that. And then I'd asked you, hadn't I? I'd sent you an email, a message, and we'd had a bit of a chat and
Yeah,
asked you questions about what you provided.
yeah,
And that fitted what I wanted. So that's where we
yeah,
went.
perfect. Did you have any particular reservations before signing up? Obviously, we had a chat on
Yeah,
the
I mean, the
phone before that,
reservation
but
was Training Peaks, wasn't it? I think that was my main question, wasn't it? Was whether you'd use Training Peaks and how used to setting training plans with Training Peaks, because I like the ability to just go into Training Peaks and then the training session comes up and I can use it on
yeah,
Zwift or I can use it on Garmin. And so I
yeah.
just like that ease of use. And of course you are, so that's great.
Did you have any other reservations aside from that, like jumping on board and
Don't think
beginning,
so.
beginning to work with
I
us?
don't think so, because looking at your website, I think it was fairly clear what you offered. It was
Yeah,
just that I wasn't clear about. So that was the question,
yeah.
the main question for me.
And how did you find that in the end when we obviously started working together? That transition, working with Training Peaks around the other platform that we use, did that work well?
So I
The
think it
results that
does
you
work
wanted?
well. There's only one or two minor things, isn't there, with the platform that you mentioned, which one was, and I meant to mention it to you the other day that I came across, and now I've forgotten what it was, but it does work on the whole 95%, I'd say very well. There's just the
Yeah.
odd little thing that is like not quite as easy as perhaps it could be, but it's only minor stuff.
No, good. And but in terms of that reservation that you had with Training Peaks, obviously I helped you overcome that. Was that basically just through getting on board and using it and showing that we could
Yeah.
use it? Did I?
I mean, it's just
Good.
you scheduling the workouts that you wanted me to do
Yeah.
and on which days, and then the session in there. So it just came up as a workout file,
Yeah.
either on Garmin or on Zwift.
Perfect. Good. And what were your aims to work when we're working together over the 4
Well, it
goals
was
at the
weight
start?
loss, wasn't it? That was the main aim, was weight
Yeah.
loss and just continuing to build my fitness back and get a base without becoming ill, getting consistency and without falling off the end.
Give us sort of an overview of like where you were particularly fitness wise and weight wise.
So I think fitness wise, I'd not done much in terms of time, effort, anything like that, miles on the bike for a good 2 or 3 years. I think probably 2 or 3 years is accurate. I'd been on and off and inconsistent. So I think last year I'd probably only done 4,000 kilometers on the bike. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
think that, was it 2020, I did 16,000 kilometers, and that's what I'd normally be doing. My weight had ballooned up to 8-ish. It might have been point something, but it was 85, give or take. Fitness wise, I was struggling to do 50 miles. I'd do 50 miles and my heart rate would be through the roof. I'd be struggling up the hills. I was cramping, wasn't I? I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
struggling. And previously, I think my longest ride previously it's just under 300. So it's like, and I could do 100 kilometers, 100 miles with my eyes shut, and 100 kilometers with my eyes shut, certainly, in my
Yeah.
sleep almost. And struggling to do 50 miles.
And so what were your goals initially then end up after
Get back
4
to
months
regular 100
working
mile
together?
rides, get my weight down. I'd set a weight of, when we were talking initially, of 72 kilograms in my head, which is, I think, roughly where I was. I was 72, 73, 74 in 2020. So I'd said 72. You
Yeah.
nudged 70, hadn't you? You suggested 70. I have been below that, as we know. I've been down as low as 66 and 68 at proper race weight. I don't want to be at
Yeah.
race weight at this time of year. Goals, regular 100-mile rides, getting back to consistent training, and getting my FTP back to where I thought I was happy with. And it was just a case of getting fit again, really. I'd not set myself at that stage a goal for FTP. I just wanted to be able to ride again and get the weight off and get fit.
Good. And did you, in terms of over the 4 months we worked together, did you feel like you've achieved those goals that we set out
Yeah.
at the start?
100%.
Oh.
So I'm 72 this morning, 72
Yeah.
kilos this morning. Before I went on holiday, I was 71.3, I think. So, I mean, I'll still get down to 70, but it's just a
Yeah.
case of as and when. Doing the 100-mile rides, I think I've done 2. So I'm back on to doing my 100-mile ride once a month. I've now set myself goals of doing the Fred again, the Fred Whitton challenge. FTP's back to what I'd consider to be on the way up to where it should be. So
Yeah.
it was 242, I think, when we started.
Yeah.
And we're now up to, the latest test was 265 watts,
Yeah.
which
Great.
is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it can go higher, but that's okay. It's on the way up. It's okay.
Yeah.
This time of year, that's okay. When I'm coming from 3 years of inconsistent riding almost, that's fine. So
Yeah.
it's good.
And if you consider like your watts per kilo as well, because obviously you've
Yeah,
lost
exactly. That's absolutely.
what's I mean, you say you're weighing
I think my
85,
watts
now you're
per kilo
72. So
were these about 3 almost at the start?
I think it was
That
under
seems about right,
3, it was
doesn't it?
2 point something.
3-ish, and now it's about 3.6. So I can get up to 4.
Perfect.
And it's that consistency,
Yeah.
isn't it? And all right, as we've been doing with the exercises that you set me as well, and the mobility stuff and the weight training. I mean, I found the first 100-mile ride, I don't know whether I've mentioned this to you, that I would get to the end of a 100-mile ride and I'd be struggling to be on the drops because my shoulders would be sore, my neck would be sore. It was at the end of the 100-mile ride, it was at 80 miles into a headwind, and comfortable on the drops.
Brilliant.
So
Yeah.
significant, isn't it?
You feel that's definitely because of the obviously the land-based training that we
I think
subscribe
so.
put
I
in
think so.
mobility and
I
stuff
think
like that.
that's the mobility stuff and those WY movements you were getting me to do.
Really good. Perfect. And you so and what about like your nutrition? How did you find that over the 4 months in terms of achieving your goals? Did you find it pretty sustainable? Was it a good way of managing your
Yeah.
weight, sustainable
So
weight?
we've not talked about that, have we? The nutrition.
Yeah.
So you got me on an 8-16 almost fasting thing using the MyFitnessPal, and I think it works really well. It's really easy to use. It's good.
Do you feel that's something obviously now you've reached your goal or you're pretty close to your goal? I mean, you've lost, you know, over 15 kilos, haven't you, in
Yeah,
4.
it's a lot.
But do you feel that can continue if you feel like we've like worked together to build a
So at the
sustainable
moment,
long-term
as I say,
change?
I've had 2 weeks of holiday, 2 weeks of not using it, pretty much being a bit slack.
Yeah.
So going forward, I'll be back onto that, and I'll be back
Yeah.
onto keeping track
Yeah.
of what I'm eating, when I'm eating it,
Mm.
but not as what's the word? Not as strict as I was before,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I don't want to keep losing weight.
And
Got to
also, obviously, if you were
balance it
away on
out.
holiday, did you
Yeah,
find obviously your weight's not really changed much? You've obviously
yeah,
managed
it's
to
not.
be more conscious of what you eat and
Yeah,
then you've not put on
exactly,
kilo of weight to
exactly.
being on
Yeah.
holiday. Perfect.
And I've
And how did
certainly been on holiday. I've had a holiday. I've eaten holiday stuff and done holiday stuff. So it's so to only, pardon me, to only be a kilogram out is fine. Well, it's not even a kilogram, is it? It's point
yeah,
0.7.
that's brilliant.
It's fine.
And how did you find your nutrition changed on the bike? How did you find that changed quite a bit as well in terms of
So
fueling those rides that we did?
I think what you've helped me realize is I'd take nutrition on the bike, and my nutrition that I'm actually eating isn't that much different. It's the timing of it.
Yeah.
I think essentially. So I'd wait half an hour into a ride before I'd start eating or drinking.
Mm.
Whereas now I'm starting from the off go
Yeah.
straight away.
Yeah.
And the other one as well is putting the electrolyte tablets in my drink, which I think that's made a big difference as well.
That's alongside the carbohydrate drink as well, isn't it?
So certainly that's eliminated the cramping altogether.
Perfect. And you found that has really helped alongside the training to feel a
Yeah,
lot more comfortable on those longer rides as well. So,
absolutely.
perfect. And how has it changed in terms of like your recovery? Well, so how do you feel coming back after a long ride, like 100 miles, compared to maybe what you were in the
Beforehand,
past?
obviously, I'd be eating like a horse and eating myself out of house and home because I
Yeah.
wasn't consuming enough calories on the bike. So now it's easier to hit the target calorie intake for the
Mhm.
day without being stupid once I get back because I've eaten a lot of the calories on the bike.
Yeah. Yeah.
That obviously helps with recovery, not only on that day, but the day after and subsequent training as well.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, brilliant. So good, Duncan. In terms of like you mentioned earlier as well, like when we wanted to work together and we started, you wanted to sort of build kind of a sustainable training plan around good periodization so you wouldn't feel
Yeah.
burnt out and fatigued. How did that work for you over the 4 months? Did you feel that what we did was sustainable? We had some good recovery periods, so you could feel like you wasn't really training. It was a kind of slow, gradual
It did.
process,
It
right?
did. It did. So I mean, if you look at the training profile and what we've done, basically the whole lot of it, it's built and built and built, hasn't it? In
Yeah,
terms of duration, efforts, everything's been increasing over that period,
yeah,
and I haven't been ill.
yeah. That's amazing. So good. How did that compare to how you trained in the past before? Did you find that you picked up more colds and
Do have a tendency to overtrain, to want to overtrain, and the problem is I don't always recognise it, and I tend to be fine and fine and fine, and then fall off a cliff,
so
and I haven't.
it's quite an easy thing for a lot of endurance cyclists to do, isn't it? Because you just want to be riding a lot and feel like that's how you're going to
Yeah.
improve in a way.
Well, everybody wants to ride the bike, that's why we do it,
Yeah,
isn't it? Or
exactly. Yeah.
exercise, whichever it is. It's addictive, isn't it?
So what was the biggest lesson for you in terms of
I think I've slowly realised that over time anyway on my own. from past mistakes
Yeah,
because I knew that was something I had to be careful with right at the start.
that's good. So you just become,
So I'd already learnt that lesson.
and you've just become more, I suppose, just helped you to be more mindful of it, would you
Yeah,
say,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
alongside it, just being more
yeah.
that's brilliant. What would your, like, overall conclusions be of, like, working with me for the last 4 months? So in terms of what your goals were at the start, whether you've achieved them, and the process of working together as well, what if you had to sum that up in 2 or 3 sentences, what would you say your overall feedback
Okay.
and
Conclusion of working with you for the last 4 months, we've hit all the goals that I'd set or we'd set jointly together, every single one of them. The process of working with you been very easy. You've been there to answer any questions. You've replied. You've been very easy to communicate with. So I think for the last 4 months of working with you, Neil, I think we've hit every single target that we'd set. I don't think there's one we haven't achieved. You've been there answering questions, easy to communicate with. I think the program has worked very well. There's not anything that I've not been happy with or not satisfied with. I think everything has been very good.
brilliant. I mean, obviously down to you putting all the hard work in, and you've been, I would like to say you've been a star client. In terms of the communication that you provided, that really helped me support you as best I can, because you're always feeding back every session. So I could see how the sessions were going for you. If they were too hard, too easy, we could upgrade them. Based on that, you giving me that feedback and that data allowed me to be able to support you as best I could as well. So that's
But I
amazing.
think I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
from where I've come from, having had that coaching background before, because I've probably not said I've coached people as well from a swimming background. So I've been doing it long enough to know what I'm looking out for in the sessions myself and what I'm trying to get out, and then what to record for myself in the future to look back at as well. So I think it all helps, doesn't it? Like
Definitely. I
it's
mean,
that
yeah,
two-way communication, and if I don't tell you what you need to know, you
yeah,
can't help me.
that's right. That would be definitely the key. Would that be the key message for anybody
Yeah,
looking to,
communication, isn't
whether
it?
coach, just communicate as much as possible.
Both
Yeah,
ways.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, both. We've both got each other's interest in heart, and I
yeah,
want to
absolutely.
be able to help you as best I can. And if you can provide me as much data as possible, then
Yeah,
make my life easier and be able to, you're going to get more from
yeah,
the coaching, aren't you, by
yeah,
being more open?
absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Uh,
It's like see, even little things that might seem silly as well.
what things would you say?
Well, the other day when I can't think. I mean, just one of the sessions where I skip a session for whatever reason because
Yeah,
I'm not feeling okay.
yeah,
For whatever reason, you might be tired or you're trying to do a session on Zwift and the internet's playing up. Whatever it is, it'll be something like that. And then I can write that in and you can go and
yeah,
just reinforce, or there's another word, isn't there? Reassure the client, me, that's okay. I know it's okay, but it's
yeah.
still bugging me. Whereas you'll say, that's fine. And then you let it go and it's just another piece of stress out the window, which reduces your overall stress, which helps you recover, which helps you get better. It's just
So do you feel that the
one
feedback?
example like that, isn't it?
So do you feel the feedback that obviously was provided from myself, obviously the communication you had just allowed you to, if you missed a session, not to be worried about it, and on,
So I mean, if
yeah,
I go back 5 or 10 years, I used to get a really big problem with missing a session.
mm,
I used to get really stressed about it because I was addicted to it. I'm sure overtraining and everything. It did it. It really, really wind me up. It'd affect
yeah.
relationships and everything. It'd overflow.
And you could, I suppose, I could see that from my perspective as well, being coached myself and training. And if someone's looking at your platform and you've not done those workouts, I might be questioning, are you really actually doing anything, or you've
Yeah,
just done not, you decided not to bother to train that week, when actually you might have, you said you cut your internet's down for the week, or you just, you tried the session, but actually you're knackered and
yeah,
can't do it. And the fact is that you were listening to your body and not feeling that
yeah,
you were obliged to do the session just because it was scheduled.
yeah,
And you fed back to me that I'm
yeah.
tired, I'm gonna save my legs for tomorrow, and listen to your body. And that's really key, rather than just because it's written down in black and white doesn't mean you have to tick every box.
And I think that's it. I think it's so easy to fall into that trap, isn't it? That it's prescribed. You've got to do it.
It's really good. It's really insightful, Duncan, because obviously a lot of people, other clients I'm working with as well, probably have that sometimes that they feel they have to do those sessions even though they might be feeling tired or they've got other things. They might go for a ride and then do a double ride because I've already prescribed it. So, well, that should be your,
I mean, that's something else that's worth mentioning and really going into, isn't it? Because
yeah,
like you say, if you've missed a ride and you've said to me before in messages, don't play catch up.
yeah,
Don't feel like you've got to play catch up. And if you miss a ride, then trying to catch up the day after
yeah,
and things like that. And
yeah.
it's a huge learning curve and it takes a long time, I think, to get over that almost, all over that feeling that that's how it's got to be.
And I suppose just trusting in the process of it, of that gradual build up, as opposed to
Yeah.
aggressively training really hard for a
Yeah.
block and then feel you need
Yeah.
it to block off really.
Well, I think you had a kind of as a podcast or one of your little daily weekly snippets that you had that you do. There was
Yeah,
one about talking about the gains and zone
yeah,
two training. And whoever you were talking to, and you were both talking about you're better off being at the low end of zone two than at the higher end of zone two. 'Cause you still get the
yeah.
same benefit, but you're still fresh at the end to carry on training the day after rather than burning yourself out.
That's right.
It's
Just
that
that,
type of thing, isn't it? It's looking at the overall picture.
definitely. Absolutely, because I always think, especially as athletes, you want to. It feels good sometimes to go off of a session absolutely wiped out, like you've given it 100%,
Yeah.
but you can't do that every day. So you have to kind of learn to do the not so exciting sessions sometimes to
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
maximum gains, don't you? How did that? Because obviously we did a few sportifs while working together over the last 3 months, which was what was your overall? How did you feel going into them and coming out of them in terms of the training and tapering off and trying to peak? Obviously, they were part of your training plan. You weren't peaking particularly in
Um,
one event, but
I mean, from my point of view, I wasn't bothered because I just see
yeah,
them as training.
exactly.
So I just
Yeah,
see them as training and going out and enjoying the day. I wasn't trying to do anything other than ride it and finish and get home. But I mean, certainly for all three of them, I was fresh, and I think pretty much I managed to I think you said try and push as hard as I can and see what I can do, and I think I pretty much
yeah,
managed to do that on every single one, didn't I?
that's good.
It was good.
That's really. I mean, I was really proud of you as well for those because unfortunately you didn't have the best weather for pretty much
No,
most
but
of it,
that,
did you?
as you know, that doesn't bother me.
So
Yeah,
obviously
as we've said, I'm better in the rain than I am in the heat. So
you're made of harder skin than me, so to being out in that.
it's just
So
waterproof.
I know that's true. That's very true. That's good. But I mean, the fact that you could do that in those conditions will definitely serve you well if you're
Yeah,
aiming for the Fred Wooden,
yeah,
definitely in the new year, which is always going to be
yeah.
iffy with the rain and wind in it. So if we just wrap things up a little bit now, just with our conversation, but a few questions based on how would you feel the service could be improved to help benefit more other cyclists like yourself in the future?
I'm not sure, Neil. I think as it is at the moment, I think it's pretty good for you. The way you've got it set up and everything, it's easy to
Yeah.
use. It works well. I can't think of any improvements off the top of my head at the moment.
No, I mean, that's great. But fantastic that you feel that way, and I'm really glad that I've been able to provide such a good service for you. What would you say to someone who was on the fence about signing up to work with me? What would your advice be if someone asked you
Try it.
your opinions of working with me? So
Try it because I mean, I don't know whether you still do, but you did that trial period at the start, didn't you? When
yeah,
I
yeah,
signed up, there was a trial period. So try it and
yeah.
see how you get on.
And if anyone had any reservations about coming on board, what would your message be
Try
to
it.
them? So just
Try
try it
it
again. Yeah,
because you don't know till you try, do you?
yes, true. That's true.
So
Yeah,
it's like anything, until you try it, you don't know. So particularly when you do that initial little trial period, it's what have they got to lose?
that's true. And did that give you more confidence in terms of
Yeah,
the platform we were using, getting you
yeah,
to work with
yeah.
me as well as an individual? Perfect. And that
I mean,
was your
that platform that you mentioned that you use, it's easy enough to use. It's easy enough to navigate around.
yeah,
Not a big issue.
perfect. get
Yeah, I mean, it
familiar,
takes a
make it
little
easier.
bit of getting used to, but it's not difficult to
Yeah,
find your way around and things.
that's brilliant. And that's the key for me is trying to make that process as easy as possible with
Yeah,
training peaks and the
yeah.
land-based training, because the last thing you want is more headaches when it comes to training. You just want to be able to, this is a session I'm going to do today and get on with it, especially around stuff. Did you find it fitted well around the work you were doing as well? Because obviously your job's can be quite stressful at times.
I mean, it wasn't an
And
issue of fitting it in time-wise,
yeah,
because that was one of the questions you put to everybody at the start, isn't it? Is what's your time commitment? So I said to you how much time I wanted to commit, and we went from there. So it did
perfect.
fit in because I'd
Yeah,
thought about previously how much time I wanted to commit.
yeah, definitely. We're not going to get you doing 20 hours a week if you
Mm,
can't do 20
it's not
hours a week.
realistic, I don't
Yeah,
think, for me.
exactly.
So
Enough for most amateurs these days, but
exactly.
it's true. Exactly. It's brilliant. Perfect. Anything else you'd like to add that we've not you thought about now, or that we haven't covered that you like to
I'm
any
afraid not at the
leaving
moment. I
remarks?
think
Or
we've
anything?
covered everything, haven't we?
Perfect. Brilliant. I mean, I'd like to say again, like, just how amazing you've been to work with as well. But it's just been an absolute pleasure seeing how you're getting on, your feedback, the weight loss just coming down, just following
It
everything
was
like
just
me, and just
consistent, wasn't it?
just fantastic because you're obviously applying everything that we're talking and helping you. So if you apply it and be consistent with it, the
Yeah.
results are there for you. And this week as well to see your FTP go up by 20, 30 watts in 4 months. Obviously, your watts per kilo has massively jumped up as well by at least probably a watt per kilo in that time as well because of the weight loss as well. It's just
Well, I think I said to you,
amazing.
didn't I? I
Yeah.
think I've said that before Christmas, or probably on the
Yeah.
next test, it's going to be heading up to 280. We'll get there.
It's good. I mean, it's great. And that's why you can peak, you can build that consistency. And obviously, Fred Whiting coming up, it just gives
Yeah.
you so much more confidence in terms of the climbs. And well, the last thing I was question for you is how do you feel climbing now compared to what you did 4 months ago with the increase in fitness and weight loss?
I feel like my climbing has gone back to how it was almost pre-COVID and pre-accident. So
That's
back
brilliant.
to when I would consider myself to be almost at the fittest I was since I was a teenager. Not a teenager, but 20s. Bearing in mind I'm 55. No,
Yeah.
I'm not. I am in a few weeks. I'm 54.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's great. I mean,
So
because
I mean, it's not
obviously,
quite there, but it's not far off, and it will
yeah.
be.
Sometimes for people, I think, especially as you get older, there's sometimes a limitation you might think because of age to get back to where you once were potentially. Would that be right sometimes?
A lot
Don't
of
you feel
people
like that?
use that as either an excuse, I say. They do feel that it's a limiting factor age. I don't believe
Yeah.
it is. There's things that get in the way, but it's an
Yeah.
excuse more than anything, I think, personally.
That's right. I'm in agreement with you there, obviously, on that. But
But I mean, again, I've not mentioned this to you yet either, that because of where we've now got to, I'm now
yeah,
considering challenge on Windlatter Pass next year.
that is amazing.
Because have I told you about this before?
I remember you told me when we first started working together that you had to stop as
Because
you
of
were
the
doing it.
rain. So I got
Yeah,
to
that's right. Yeah,
32 climbs up Windlatter. I needed
yeah.
42, but I had to stop because of the rain. So it was June the 20th and it was 11 degrees in the middle of the afternoon.
UK weather.
So I've now decided that because my weight's dropping, my climbing's getting back to where it was, my watt per kilo is getting back to where it was, my FTP is getting back to where it was, my fitness is
Yeah,
getting back to where it was. Yes, I've got the goal for Fred Whitten. Uh, but it's like once I've done Fred Whitten, train
yeah,
for Everest and
definitely. Yeah, you would just take that training right onto that. You'd be more than
yeah,
capable of
no,
doing it.
exactly. So, but
Yeah,
this time I'm not going to pick a set day. I'm going to wait for a decent weather day so I can actually
good.
get it done.
Do you feel? I suppose a question for you as well, just to finish and wrap up, Duncan. But a few questions I've had recently from friends like, "What are you training for, Neil?" And I was like,
I know I saw that.
"I'm just training because I want to be
Yeah,
ready,
exactly.
always ready."
I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
Just to be ready,
because that way
to
it
be
probably
fit.
be. Do you feel in that way because like now, if you're just saying now, you can just go and do the Everest when
Yeah,
the weather's good. You've already got the training
exactly.
there. You're not trying to peak for an event.
Exactly.
You might just right, I'm going for it that day. Maybe just
Yeah,
change a few things a week before or whatever.
correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And it's like the sportives that I managed to do, or the
yeah,
sportives that you've done, or the
yeah,
longer rides that you've done. It's you can go and do them because you're ready, because you're
yeah.
fit, and then it's keeping at that level.
And I think it's a real big sh shift, mindset shift, isn't it? Because a lot of people just stop once they've achieved certainly a big goal, because obviously it can take a lot of effort to get there. But I suppose the way I really am passionate about coaching, I don't know if this came across for you, but obviously the periodization that we built, did that come across in terms of you never said you were burnt out or felt like you were overtraining? Is that because obviously how we periodize the program
Yeah,
to be more long term sustainable as well as
yeah, it's
short
absolutely, and that was
goals?
a key thing that I was
Yeah.
looking for, as we said.
Yeah.
I mean, I think training for life, aren't we?
Okay.
Basically, whatever you want that to be, it's training for
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, you couldn't say it better, Duncan, because obviously it's not just those events, but just being able to get out and enjoy the ride. And
Yeah,
I find myself, and you probably found it, you enjoy riding more when you're fitter because it's not,
yeah,
you're not coming back absolutely exhausted, or you're not worried
yeah,
about whether you can keep up and all those other things that might have doubts in your brain if you've
yeah.
not been training as much. Good. Brilliant.
Great
But
stuff.
thank you very much for your
Thank you,
time.
Neil.
Thank you for being an amazing client. But final remarks, Duncan, it's just been fantastic to work with.
Thank you.
You know, really, really appreciate it. It's been a joy, absolute joy. So
Yeah,
really, really
thanks.
appreciate all your hard work. And I'm so pleased that I've obviously, you're the one who's put in the hard work. I've not done any of it. So I've just helped nudge you in the right direction. But I'm glad that you've just taken on board everything that we've discussed and applied it and just got, I think you've really exceeded my expectations in terms of what the results that you've got. It's been amazing. So
Okay.
really good.